This is James. No, not that James. This James. Like many people nowadays, James hates his job, hates his boss, and especially hates overworking, burning out, and spending his free time in front of the TV because he just doesn't have the energy to do anything else. Many times, James repeated to himself.
How can you sit there and eat pizza?
And yet he can't make himself work on building a business in his leisure time like he wants to. Filled with resentfulness and anger, James decides to stop pushing, stop going above and beyond, and just work the bare minimum that is required for his job. Soon enough, James is fired. Good, he thinks to himself. I can finally focus on doing what I really want and not to be a drone to some company. When he gets back home, he sits in front of his computer and begins writing a business plan. After 5 minutes, he checks his phone because he received a notification from TikTok. He spends about 35 minutes just watching different TikToks until snapping back to reality and realizing that he doesn't have the motivation to go back to work. He goes over to his fridge, grabs a snack, and sits down in front of his TV to watch his favorite TV show while scrolling Instagram in the background. Another hour, another day, another week, another opportunity wasted. If you can relate to James and his story to at least some level, then listen very carefully, as in this video I will go over why so many people nowadays, especially young people, are working meaningless jobs, burning out, doing this thing called quiet quitting, and have no idea what it actually means to be productive or what tools to use in order to be so. In the past, you would work for two reasons: to survive and to provide survival to your group or community, which in turn would increase the chances of your survival. In today's world, we no longer have this sense of community, especially in the jobs that we do. Now, I believe that the majority of jobs are necessary in order to make the world work, and I believe that there is a job for everyone in which they would feel fulfilled and help other people. But there are those meaningless jobs, and when people work those meaningless jobs, they suffer in return. If you work for a company that from a wide perspective doesn't give you an indication that you are improving or that you are taking part in something that might help others in a meaningful way, you feel like crap. You don't feel that your current position is any good, you don't see any perspectives for the future, and the only thing that is holding you from quitting is money. In this situation, many people choose to do what is now known as quiet quitting. Quiet quitting is when a person stops working hard and starts working exactly as much as he or she feels that is necessary for the amount of pay that they receive. Although quiet quitting existed in the past, it is much more prevalent now and actually really scares company owners.
This is the dumbest idea I've ever heard in launching a career. And what I'm hoping I can do, and I've told the recruiters, because I've got about 10,000 people inside of the companies that we're investors in, plus the supply chains, I've asked them, can we identify these people early and help them get jobs with our competitors? Because this is the most competitive weapon I've ever seen.
For me, this sounds logical. If the purpose of me being more productive means that you gain more money and I gain nothing, then I don't see a reason to go above and beyond. I remember when I was working as a pizza driver, a completely useless job, I would actually work hard not because to impress my boss, but the team that I was actually working with in the pizzeria were really nice people. I didn't want to mess up my order and make the workers back at the pizzeria have to cook another pizza, let's say, and we helped each other clean even if it wasn't part of our duties, and we just had nice conversations during the days. I kept working there mainly for the money, but I didn't hate the job because the environment I was in was meaningful enough. Of course, it wasn't always like that, as we had a lot of personnel change, but I think everybody was pretty much satisfied, at least in the team part of things. But in the end, this job was for the money, and besides the team that we had, this pretty much didn't bring any further meaning than that. Trust me, delivering pizzas to people that obviously have food addiction and are obese was never fun, and I'm really glad that I don't work there anymore and can actually focus on the stuff I truly find meaningful, at least for now. Unfortunately, many people not only find zero meaning in their work, but they're not willing to search for it elsewhere, and if they do, they can't seem to focus on that or know how to be productive at all. I repeated this in the past and I will repeat it till I die. Productivity is not about the amount of hours you put in. Productivity is about results and being able to repeat those results over a long period of time. I heard this following point from Andrew Kirby, and I think it's a really great example of what kind of mentality you should have toward productivity. In the past, when pretty much everybody was part of agriculture, in order to be more productive, you had to work harder and faster in order to plant and grow more crops. Even with that, once you planted all the crops and fed all of your animals, in terms of farming, there wasn't any more you could do after that, except maybe cleaning and maintenance and so on. Nowadays, we seem to have the same mentality when we approach work, but this system doesn't necessarily work so great anymore. Of course, it depends on the job, but if we're talking about jobs that are done with a computer, it's a bit different. Sure, if you're able to complete tasks fast and repeat that day in and day out, you are ahead of your competition. But if you waste time doing stuff that's not important, like checking your phone, perfecting every single detail, and in turn working slower, you will not be productive and you will burn out. If you are able to bring the same or better results in a shorter amount of time and balance yourself so that you don't burn out from working in this space, that's real productivity. If you are working for yourself and creating something or building a business, also realize that there's always infinite amount of work ahead of you. You can always do something more and better, but you have to figure out your limits and figure out that work and life balance. If you just follow hustle culture's advice, you will burn out. So make sure that what you are doing has some meaning, lets you enjoy other activities or just life in general, and accumulates results over time, which will increase the chances of your success in the future. Now let's take a quick look at some practical tools and habits you could use or do in order to increase productivity. The most important thing when it comes to productivity tools and habits is scheduling and a routine. The best tool for this, in my opinion, is Google Calendar, as it's a great way to organize your life as a whole and has easy access either through your computer or your phone, as it syncs everything. When you create a schedule, preferably 1 week in advance, when you start to follow it, it becomes a practical routine. What matters the most in your routine is your sleep schedule. Make sure that you wake up at the same time every day. Going to sleep at the same time is also good, but it's not mandatory. Just make sure that you wake up at the same time. Next, plan not only your work, but breaks as well. When we plan, we tend to over-romanticize things to the point that we just put unrealistic amount of work and habits that we have to do in a day, when in reality, it just requires a healthy balance between work and breaks. If done right, this will prevent burnout. I'm not going to go in depth about how I schedule, but if you want to learn more about how I do it, you can check out this video in the description down below or click the top right corner of the screen. When you actually make yourself sit down and work, you better not be checking notifications on your phone or mindlessly scrolling when you are bored. You can't be at your maximum focus level and quality level if you are always distracted by your phone. So the best thing you could do is to either put it in the do not disturb mode and hide it in a drawer, for example, or just turn it off completely. Of course, your phone might not be your only distraction. Maybe you hear sounds outside of your room or house that are kind of bugging you, or maybe your family constantly disrupts you because they want something. The key is to work in as least distracting environment as possible. I recommend just putting on your headphones or earphones on and just putting on some ambient music to help you focus and not get distracted by the outside noise. Currently, I'm listening to this and it really helps me to tune out the outside world and just focus on the task at hand. If your family members are distracting you, tell them in advance that at this time you will be working and you don't want to be bothered. Now you know that your hate of your job comes from finding lack of meaning in it, that real productivity comes from actually achieving results over a long period of time, and you now know the tools and habits you should do in order to be productive and build what you want. If you want to learn more about productivity, check out my playlist of about 30 videos on this, and by either going in the description down below or clicking the top right corner of this video right now. Other than that, thank you so much for watching this video, and always remember, meaning is always above pleasures.